What's up, Pawn family? It's Yigal, and I'm back in town. I'm going to go live today to talk about a couple of things and kind of recap my trip with you guys to North Carolina and to Virginia, and some takeaways that I think are important to share with you guys from what I learned from the other shops that I visited, the ones that I coached, and just kind of something to think about for today. So if you're on this call, say hello. If you're on the replay, say hello. That way I can see exactly who's on and I can comment. So if you're here, if you're watching, just write a comment. Let me know if you're watching this. So last week, I went to North Carolina. I visited two shops out there. One a mastermind member, another one I visited National Pawn. And then I visited a shop in Virginia that was super interesting, super beautiful. And I want to kind of consolidate everything that I taught them in 3 days, kind of what the message, the recurring message was over the time. So I'm going to give it a couple minutes to have some people jump on. And let me see if I can share this into the podcast group. If you're not in the Pawn Leaders podcast group, go ahead and do that. Just search Pawn Leaders Podcast Community on Facebook and answer 2 easy questions. What pawn shop do you work for? And do you agree to the rules? And I'll let you into an incredible community of people who just ask questions and we have a good time. Also, if you haven't downloaded the 3 pillars of profitable pawn shops, do that. There's 12 steps how to create a great pawn shop that's profitable in there. Check that out. Cool. So let's go ahead and start with the 3 important takeaways to grow your pawn business from North Carolina and from Virginia. Number 1 is slow down to speed up. Now let me explain this. A lot of the pawn shop owners that I visit, they're operating at such a hectic speed that they're making tons of mistakes. I'll say that again. You're operating at such a hectic speed that you could be making tons of mistakes. You got to slow down a little bit. Slow down and focus on the things that matter. Slow down and attack things one by one as opposed to all at the same time. Now, I know it's a pawn business, fast pace, lots going on. But what I see in a lot of pawnbrokers is that there's so much anxiety around getting stuff done that they don't do anything at all. They just go on with the day-to-day and problems persist. They don't have conversations that they need to. They're not taking care of issues that need to. They're not investing in themselves when they need to. So the first takeaway is slow down. Slow down and write things out. Write those things out that you need to accomplish, the problems that are happening, the conversations that you need so that you can have them, and attack those one by one. Not all at the same time, but one by one. A method to this is get together with your team and basically say, okay, guys, we've got 3 things that we need to accomplish, that we need to attack. What's number 1 on priority? And once number 1, you can delegate it or keep someone accountable to it and you get that done. Now let's move on to number 2. Because I promise you, the more you put on your plate and the more that you try to eat, the more stuffed you're going to feel. And it's just not going to be a pretty sight. So slow down. Got that? Slow down. If you guys have any questions, write it in the comment box and I will try to answer it as they're coming up. Hopefully I can see them. If you're watching this, go ahead and comment just so I can make sure that the comment box is working. Okay, so let's go on to number 2. All right, number 2 is stay consistent when you have an idea. Now you see, marketing is 80% ideas and 20% execution. And what I mean by that is you've got to come up with the idea first and not be afraid to execute it. Then once you execute it, stay consistent with it. So many times I'm seeing pawnbrokers, they have a flash sale or they have this marketing idea to grow their loan balance and they give it 2 weeks and then they say, oh, it's not working. And then they pull the idea. You've got to stay consistent with it. Advertising is the same thing. Once you place an ad, it takes time to get your ROI. So same thing with your pawn shop. It takes time to see if an idea is working or not. I've walked into pawn shops where they have 30,000, this sale and this idea and this marketing and this thing. And They don't know what's working and not when I ask them. If I say, hey, what's the ROI of that campaign? They're like, I don't know. So you've got to know to stay consistent with your ideas. Give it some time, give it some months, and then go back and regroup and say, okay, what can we switch? What can we choose to change in this idea that might work? Not let's toss this idea away and just implement new ones. You confuse your staff, you confuse your clients, and you confuse yourself a lot of times. So stay consistent with the ideas that you have so that you can see if there's a real ROI in it. So let's go to number 3, and this is one of the most important. I'm going to start off with a story first. We had an office manager, and the office manager had been with us for 4 or 5 years. And we basically gave her free reign to do whatever she needed to do to get the work done. All of a sudden, there was inconsistencies. All of a sudden, there was things that were smelling fishy. And to make a long story short, she embezzled like $38,000 from us. And it's our fault. 100% my fault. And it's my fault because I let the reins go and I wasn't holding her accountable to say, okay, let me see the reports. Let me see what's going on. I know a lot of you have gone through embezzlement and are afraid to be stolen from, but I promise you, if you keep your eye off the ball, you will get screwed. Yes, you have to delegate work. Yes, you have to hire people because that's going to make your life better and your pawn shop grow. But you still have to keep the eye on the ball, make sure that everything is kosher. Everything is working out okay. Look at the reports, look at the KPIs, look at the accounting. Send your books to a third-party accountant and say, hey, check this stuff out. Let me make sure, let me know if everything's working out. Because I run across so many stores that are being embezzled from. I run across shops that the employees stole from them. And all because they kind of put their hands in the air and they trusted, as you should, but you need to put systems into place to check everybody, even yourself. You should be checked as an owner to make sure that you're doing things correctly. You should be checked as an owner to make sure that you're moving the needle ahead as opposed to backwards. And do the same thing with all of your employees. If you have managers, keep them accountable. General managers, keep them accountable. You always want to know what's happening in your business so that nobody kind of screws each other. Right? It's kind of like the 3 branches of government that are supposedly there to watch each other and what they're doing. So it's not just a full out blown one person, one branch does whatever that they want. It can seem like that sometimes, but that's a whole different ballgame. So make sure that you are keeping accountable. You're holding people accountable. What's up, Taylor? Thanks for being on. As opposed to just throwing your hands in the air, right? So kind of let's go back and go over this. So the first thing I learned on my last trip while I was coaching in North Carolina and Virginia was slow down to speed up. You've got to slow down. You've got to focus on things one at a time as opposed to trying to eat the whole thing at the same time. Because there's just a lot of anxiety that comes up from that, right? If you're trying to do so much at the same time, you get anxious, you're not focusing, you drop the ball, you're not executing the way you should be executing. So you got to slow down sometimes, even though it feels like, man, if I slow down, I'm going to lose momentum. Sometimes you got to slow down, right? Even like the NASCAR racers, they've got to go into the pit. Even though that pit's super quick, they've got to stop. They've got to change the tires. They've got to change the brakes, make sure everything is running correctly so that they can speed up again. They've got to slow down to come into the pit, make some changes, focus on some things that need to be changed, and then they can take off. Because if they're just running the race consistently, what's going to happen is that car is going to break down. That tire is going to pop, or the brake's not going to hold, or the transmission is not going to work the same. And that's the same thing that you need to do in your pawn shop, in your business. You've got to slow down. You've got to make a pit stop. It's one of the beauties of the mastermind call. Every single week, these owners take a pit stop for an hour a week. And we sit down and we slow down and we talk about, okay, what needs fixing? Okay, what are my problems? Okay, what's working? And then after that call, boom, they rev out of the pit and they just speed through and they win the race. But you've got to slow down. You've got to make a pit stop. You've got to have people helping you make that pit stop, right? It's not about making that pit stop by yourself. So they can tell you this, what needs to happen, change the tires, change the brake, work on the transmission, whatever needs to be worked on is worked on so you can win the race every single time. You can't do 100 laps without checking on what's going on. You can't run a 100-mile race without grabbing some water. It doesn't work like that. You've got to make a pit stop. You've got to slow down in order to speed up. So, Seth, what's up, brother? Great to see you on this call. So I'm going to say that one more time. You've got to slow down and focus in order to win the race, in order to find out exactly what you need to do so that you can move forward and gain momentum the right way, as opposed to just revving through the race every single day, because you'll get tired. You will get so tired that you'll lose. Yep, I was in NASCAR country, brother. So yeah, like I saw all these NASCAR memorabilia at one of the shops that I went to, and it just reminded me of that. It reminded me that even though these guys are champions, they've got to take a pit stop. They've got to slow down, put the brakes on. They've got to stop the full stop, right? They have to come into a full stop so that the tires are changed, so the brake pads are changed. And then they can go again. It's not like, oh, rolling stop. It's a full stop to assess exactly what's happening in your operation, to assess exactly what's happening with you as a leader. You've got to make that full stop. You cannot just speed through it. So that's number one. Number two is when you have an idea, marketing, sales, whatever that is, you've got to stay consistent with it. You've got to stay consistent over time so that you can see the real ROI, the rate of return. You can't just, oh, okay, here we go. Let's put a sale out today and that's it. Let's do a referral program for a week and see if it works. You're going to fail at your marketing ideas. You're going to fail at these promotional ideas. It's going to happen. But the point of marketing isn't just to see what works. It's to see what doesn't work as well, so you don't make that mistake again. And if you're just throwing darts at the board hoping stuff sticks, that's not going to work as well. You've got to stay consistent. You've got to stay consistent with your mission. You've got to stay consistent with your values. And if you don't have any of those, you better sit down and write those out, because you don't know where your shop is going without mission and values. You've got to stay consistent with the way you lead your team. You've got to stay consistent from store to store, right? One of the biggest complaints I got at one of the pawn shops I went to, that managers were doing different things. They would lend differently, different promotions. They would buy differently. They would sell differently at different discounts. And you can't do that. That even scares away your clients who go to different stores. You've got to stay consistent. And the way you do that is you build team, right? Your managers meet together. You meet with your staff if you're one shop owner. And you communicate as much as you can to them. And when you think that you've communicated enough, communicate even more until it's clear as day. So you've got to stay consistent with your marketing. You've got to stay consistent with your procedures. Consistency is king, right? Says something that's called Captain Consistency. That's what the pawn leaders are all about. You've got to stay consistent. And that's one of the things I talk about in the 3 pillars of profitable pawn shops. If you haven't downloaded that, go to pawnleaders.com. It's on the front page. Just put in your name, your email, and get this free download, the free guide. It's really, really an awesome guide. I put a ton of work into it to teach you what are those 12 steps to have a profitable pawn shop. So let's go to number 3. And number 3 is one of the scariest things. Number 3 is, again, I said a story before in the beginning of the call where we found out that one of our office managers early on were embezzling money. That's because we just put blind faith and trust, as you should put trust in people. But there's got to be systems and checks in place to make sure that they're held accountable. Even to make sure that you're held accountable for what you're doing. You can't be the manager, the leader, and that's it. Like, nobody can touch me. There has to be systems in place to keep you accountable to the work that you're doing as well. If you're promising your staff promotional material, are you getting it done? If you're promising them how to bring in more leads to the pawn shop, are you getting it done? If you're working on strategy, are you getting it done or just sitting there day to day writing pawn loans, which I know is important, but you've got to work on your business as well. So you have to hold everybody accountable in the organization, including yourself. Your manager should call you out. And they say, Yigal, where was that thing that you promised us? And you can't be like, hey, I'm the boss. Why don't you shut up? Hey, I'll do this when I need to do this. Hey, why don't you concentrate on the work that you're supposed to do as opposed to what I'm supposed to do? That's a shitty boss. Excuse me. There should be accountability all over the place, every single level, from the top to the bottom, because that's what's going to create a great culture and an operation that's going to move forward. Everyone has to do their work, yes. But at the same time, everybody has to be held accountable, especially you. It's so easy just to go to work as a pawn shop owner or manager and do the day-to-day operation, look at a report and go home. But are you really doing the work that needs to be done to grow your operation? Are you surrounded by other like-minded people, like the people in the mastermind, who are growing day in, day out in order to make stuff happen? Because you're responsible as a business owner to grow your operation so that your staff makes more money. And obviously so that you make more money as well. But they're looking up to you as a leader. They're looking up to you so that you can slow down to speed up. They're looking up to you so that you can stay consistent in doing what needs to be done. And they're looking up to you to hold them accountable and yourself accountable so that that pawn shop grows and that business grows. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you haven't gone to pawnleaders.com, check it out. There's great resources there. The podcast is there. If you want to sign up for the mastermind, let me know. Shoot me a message, a direct message or a private message. And I've been doing this a while. And I know that this type of coaching works. And not because I'm coaching, but because I've been in the business for 16 years, owning my own stores, and I'm a third-generation pawnbroker. I learned from my father and uncle and grandfather what to do and what not to do. Then implemented in my stores and took them to millions in pawn. So you can either wait and say, yeah, this is the way that we've been doing it. Somebody said that the other day. This is the way that we've been doing it for 70 years. Yeah, but is that the right way to do it in 2019? Could you test something different to grow your business? Could you invest in yourself, in your training to take you to the next level? The answer is yes. Go to pawnleaders.com or send me a message to chat. And have an incredible day, and we'll see you guys soon. Take care.